Okay, guys, welcome back to a new video here. So, since the Assad regime has collapsed, guys, the Israeli government is making significant moves in Syria. So, they went into Syria after the regime collapsed from the Golan Heights area, and they created another buffer zone, guys, which with a significant amount of land taken and basically under Israeli control now. One key point, guys, Mount Hermon, which is the highest point in Syria in terms of altitude, and it's significant for a number of reasons. Number one, Damascus, for guys, the capital of Syria, is now in Israeli artillery range, which is wild. That's the first time that's happened. And because it's the highest point in Syria and it also borders with Lebanon, guys, it is super important strategically for reconnaissance missions, special forces missions. In the past, the Israelis have kind of been blinded because of this mountain. But now that they have control over it, which by the way, Netanyahu says is temporary, but I'm extremely skeptical of that. Now they're going to have a significant strategic advantage here. And not only have they been making a land grab in the sense, they've also been bombing chemical weapons facilities. My guess would be with the support of many Western countries, because, guys, one concern with the regime collapsing in Syria is a lot of these groups coming in, there's a lot of unknown with the leadership groups, which HTS, for example. I believe the U.S. is actually considering taking off the leader of HTS from the terrorist watch list, which is super interesting, but they've been bombing chemical weapons facilities because they do not want it to fall into the hands of HTS. So we're actually seeing Israeli strikes in Syria the same time that they're making this land grab, which is super, super interesting. And again, guys, we talked about it from and again, we're talking here. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said Israel will deploy heavy strategic weapons throughout Syria, including surface-to-air missiles, air defense systems, surface-to-surface missiles, cruise missiles, etc., etc. Now, again, we just talked about it, where from the Golan Heights, they seized positions in Syria for strategic purposes, and while they call it defensive, until an arrangement is found, but who knows how long that's going to take, guys. And we're seeing here, this is kind of on the map strategically where they went in from the Golan Heights area. And again, this is also, I thought, was a good image, guys, where strategically it shows how the Israelis have been blinded in the past, where they, because of how Herman has been harder to conduct a number of reconnaissance missions, as well as actually being aware of drones coming in because you couldn't see over the mountain. Now, with control of it, they have so much more. It's going to be far easier for the Israelis to conduct surveillance as well as be aware of actual attacks coming in, even from Iran potentially, guys. They'll have a head start on a potential alert system, which is huge for them. Um, and again, because there was an agreement, by the way, guys, where the Israelis would not be able to go into Syrian territory, but the Israelis are saying because the regime has collapsed, that agreement is no longer enacted. So the Israelis basically have free reign, according to Netanyahu. This has been condemned by the Iraqi government, and I believe the UAE has also condemned this. But again, it's going to be interesting to see how exactly this is going to unfold here, because there's a lot of concern the Israelis might continue to go into Syria. I'm a little skeptical just because I think that there's going to be a lot of international pushback to this. But again, it's extremely concerning in the sense where this could just be escalating into another conflict here. And again, this guy is also talking about the mountains provide perfect cover for Israeli special forces and spies who can now enter Syria more freely, conducting missions. Um, and again, it's going to be significantly weakened for Hezbollah also, guys, assuming whatever actions they plan on taking. Because not only, like we just said, guys, not only is the highest point in Syria, but it gives a full view of Lebanon as well as Israel. It's a huge, huge strategic point, and it's not, I feel like, being discussed enough in mainstream press. But again, this was an interesting map, guys, kind of showing also where this is the Golan Heights section, which is labeled Israel on this map, which is disputed territory, but it is under Israeli control. And the yellow here is a buffer zone. But again, look at Damascus, guys, only 40 kilometers from Mount Hermon, which is under Israeli control here, and it's in artillery range. So if the Israelis want to make a move, they potentially could. And the reason why, and again, the Israelis are also saying they're doing this in order to secure and sort of fortify their borders, because there was some speculation that maybe a lot of these resistance groups might not stop in Syria, might go into Israel. I don't think there's any indication that's going to happen, but that was speculations, and that's potentially being used as a justification here to go in and secure these borders. But again, super interesting for a number of reasons. The Israelis making a land grab in Syria as the regime collapses. And to be fair, this was a concern of many people had with the Syrian regime collapsing. But again, as far as a major land grab, I don't think that's going to happen just because of the pushback. I don't think it would be supported even by Western allies. So I'm not sure that's going to happen. But the question is, and there's a lot of people saying, oh, are there positives or negatives of this? There's people claiming, oh, the Israelis they're not thrilled with HTS, for example, taking control. Total BS. Complete, and this is exactly why, guys. It was completely in the Israelis' interest for the Syrian regime to collapse. There's no question about it. They're thrilled with these events, and you can see it now. It is a land grab and creating a buffer zone, and it strengthens their position immensely, the Israelis. So, again, how does this affect geopolitical ramifications in the region with Iran and Lebanon? I don't think it's good for Iran, but the one thing I will say, because Iran is kind of backed into a corner now, will create a scenario where there maybe make a desperation move. Who knows what that is? But we've been talking about they've been threatening Israel for months now with another attack. Now, nothing has come of that yet, but is it possible they would go and attack Israel now that they're extremely desperate, or perhaps create a nuclear weapon? Now, again, if they were to do this, though, that would, I mean, you're basically asking the Israelis to go in and destroy their entire Iranian regime, which I speculate that is in Netanyahu's, that's in his eyesight. I think he wants to go into Iran, and he's just begging for an excuse. So I'm sure the Iranians are making that calculation as well. But who knows, guys? The Iranians have been severely weakened over the last few months. They're basically naked. They're completely vulnerable, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But yeah, a lot has happened, guys, since their Syrian regime has collapsed. But the main headline, Israel making a play, basically taking major strategic points in Syria, and who knows what comes next. So wild stuff, guys. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to this video, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.